Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another series. This is straight from AMC Paris, starring Giancarlo Esposito, Skeet Ulrich, and a slew of other amazing actors and actresses. So, the background of this is really interesting in the sense that you don't really know much about Gray, who is, Parrish, other than the fact that he is a great driver and he's got a family. But now, like as a driver, quote unquote, he's been thrust into a situation where he is dabbling with gangsters that really don't have any limitations. And so this is the first episode of it. We do have a non-spoiler review. You guys can go and check that out. But I have here Bizzy. What's up, man? How
Hey
you doing,
man,
dude?
I'm excited to talk about this. I mean, this is the one AMC show that I am seeing kind of popping out with their marketing right now, and obviously with the ones who live, happening right now, it does make sense for them to do it, you know, uh, while they have a show popping. So watching the first episode, it was cool. It was a pleasant surprise, but yeah, I think you got to be careful with who he's messing with, cause we see some things, and they're no joke. Then you got to be afraid.
Yeah, there's a show on Netflix that just stopped. And it was really good because Jason Bateman was the main character of that
Was it
show. Him
the
and his wife,
OZ or Ozark? I
the
can't remember.
Ozark. Yep. I
Okay.
think the thing about Ozark, the way that Ozark started is they got connected to this gangster, and they had to make a choice of self-preservation, life or death. And I think that the thing about Giancarlo Esposito, he's got so much range, and he's so good in this first episode. You don't really know who he is, what he did, who his past was, but you know absolutely the amount of pain that he's feeling because of the loss of his son. The loss of his son has led him down a very interesting path because at this current point, from what we could tell from the first episode, we see him kind of boxing. We don't really know what that was about. See him kind of shaving and talking to himself. We're seeing him going back and forth within himself to try to figure out how he can make more money to keep the life that he's built with his wife, with his daughter, stable. But he's bleeding money. Like his garage isn't. It's not going to be sustainable. But later on, we find out that because of the loss of his son, um, he's been trying to keep things exactly the same. And I think when you have a man that has already lost something like that, there's a part of him that's broken. He's not going to allow anyone or anything to remove anything else from his life. So I think that's the interesting thing. Even though we got these Zimbabwean gangsters in this, I think that they're playing a very interesting role because there's a hierarchy there that we don't really know. We know that the main character, the horse, quote unquote, that's kind of running this operation. We don't know what kind of operation he runs. But we know he's got a brother that's insane. I don't know if this is possibly his wife or his sister, but the way that they roll is very different from the vibe of New Orleans, and I don't know what they're capable of. But gauging from the last moments of this episode, they are not here to play at all. So I was going to ask your opinion about, you know, uh, with Giancarlo's character Gray, like his relationship with his family, now dipping and dabbling into this gangster lifestyle. Like, do you think it's more like we don't know what he is and who he used to be, or is it more so he's in an unchecked situation that he's never been in before?
So I think he's prepared. I mean, we already saw these moments where he's going kind of head to head, like being challenged, if you will, by the horse. So to see him standing his ground, knowing exactly what to do when the horse is trying to, not even the horse, it was his brother. When we see him kind of give him that stare down, Giancarlo Esposito or Gray ended up giving him the like the napkin. Like he was just like staying cool during these hot situations, like the entire episode. So I in no mind like I just obviously feel like he's equipped, he's all set, but I'm also a little bit afraid of the fact that he hasn't done it for a while and he might be in over his head. It's just I don't know, it's one of those things.
Yeah, I really I think that's one of the most interesting things is that we don't know who he used to be. Um, we don't really know much about even his friend Colin, because there's a moment where he goes to a Catholic church and he sees this nun, um, and it seems like she used to be about that life. I don't know if they're family or not, but she basically the way that they talked, it seemed like they were brothers and sisters. They've been in a lifestyle that, from what she said, it's a miracle we're still alive. Somebody doesn't make a comment like that that's just a driver. You've done some
Hmm.
other things in your life. And I'm curious to see what that is, but they've left stuff so ambiguous because even with the daughter, like the daughter kind of left this real staple, like really sassy with them, really upset. Even in the midst of the fact she lost her brother, for her, she's been able to move on, but he can't. And she also is dealing with this regret that he felt like the brother was more important. I think that's what she feels. And the mother, she's kind of in this place where I need to be able to move on and you can't, and you're keeping us
Exactly.
stagnant, and we're gonna end up losing this marriage if you can't let our son go, because it all ties together. He's trying to keep the house exactly the same because that's what his son does. He's trying to keep, the car place that he owns stabilized because that's probably what he aspired his son to have, a legacy to hold on to. And it's just so many different things that we don't know about him, about his family, and about this gangster team that, I don't know, it just makes it so much more interesting because for the first episode I really don't know much. I'm kind of thrust into a situation and I'm left to deal with the pieces of the emotions that the characters are feeling. How did you take on the acting in this one? I mean, there's a lot of good talent in his, because you've got John Carlos Esposito, who's a freaking beast,
Hmm.
but you've also got my man, God, I'm spacing on his name, plays Colin. He's been a,
Eldritch.
yeah, he's been in stuff for
Mhm.
years, and I don't know, he's killing the game as well. Like, I don't know, what would you take on that acting in this?
So I think the acting was great. Of course, Giancarlo Esposito killed it on his own. But I did like a scene that it kind of stood out. It was with his wife when she was, going through the storage. It looked like she was packing some stuff out. I mean, the way she just kind of acted in that scene, I really liked it. I thought she pulled it off.
Yeah. Um, for me, I think that it's some strong scenes in this that Giancarlo is just nailing it in. Um, but I think the other side of it is I think the world building, like they've put me in a situation where I don't know who this person is, but I also don't understand the town. I don't understand how and what is really happening. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, which is why this review that we're doing is going to be pretty short because there's a lot of unanswered questions. So all we can do is just call it by the numbers. We've already kind of talked about the fact that he's been out some game for a very long time. And his friend Colin kind of approaches him when he's in his most desperate in need of money. He literally just had like an emotional compromising moment with his own daughter and his wife. And he basically said to them, like, I don't know how to move on without him. And they looking at him like you're being selfish because we're still suffering too. Um, but the moment he meets Colin, like he's going and just drifting, like you see his car whipping skills come into play, and they're just having all the best time until Colin kind of lets him know, like, hey, I need your help. I owed you. I'm not gonna snitch on you, but I really need you. And it got to a point where he kind of walked away and said it was fine, but he ended up coming right back to it. And that's where we got introduced to the horse. The horse wants him and Colin to go and take something in this episode. We didn't really know what it was. Initially, Colin was going to be the one to kind of crack the safe himself, but then they got an outside player to go and open it for them. They got a getaway car. All of it seemed like it was all going to line up. The moment they got to the freaking building, and the guy was putting the code in, acting like I don't know what the code is. I was like, they're being set up. and I didn't know who was doing the setup. I didn't know if it was all a test, but that was when Don Carlo Esposito's character Gray, like he kicked it into high gear. He immediately assessed what was going on without even having to talk to Colin. He already was kind of like, "We're burned. We're gonna do this. Go on the outside location." He's probably already called the police. I'm gonna get a different car, and just how he moved, bro. Like it was just so fascinating because I got to see a different side of him, and I'll say this, and I don't know if you disagree or not. Some of the car sequences and the way they
They were
handle
done well.
the pacing of action with thrill, like it felt like a thriller. Like it felt like this series is actually a thriller series as
Hmm.
opposed to a slow burn drama. And that's one thing I don't think ANC has done in a very long time of having like just a thriller. What did you think about like some of the scenes, the car scenes that they had with this episode?
So I thought they were pretty good, and I think that's the thing. I feel like sometimes cable has some inconsistent scenes, car scenes. Excuse me. But with this, I thought they handled it well. But it's something that you kind of have to do, especially when this guy's whole gimmick is that he's a good driver. I feel like it's extremely necessary for him to kind of show off those skills in the beginning. So I thought it was pretty cool, and the way it was filmed, I thought was cool.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think that they handled a lot of those car scenes with a lot of grace, specifically when the first car scene that we see him in, and we don't know what's really going on. We just know that, a cop's coming up to him, like telling him to pull over, and he's just like, crap. And I think he was looking at a picture of his son, and then he just sped off. And the way
Hmm.
they handle like the camera work and his driving ability, it showed me a couple of different things that they did a really good job later on. Is that he did not let that car get scratched at all. Even in the moment that he could have like backed into something to kind of throw the policeman off, he just didn't get it dirty or scratched or anything. And then later on, when we see him with the car, like he's just kind of like putting his finger on it, like making sure it's detailed really nice. And it's just, I don't know, it reminded me of Jason Statham's Transporter. Like when you remember the very first movie where the Transporter, it was like he's trying to keep everything plush and perfect. But we don't really know what kind of man he is. That's kind of the vibes I got about this first episode, specifically when they handle any of the driving moments. But going back full circle, they get the guy out, they get the bag, they get into a different car, they get that same red Porsche we see from the beginning of the first episode, and they get to the drop point. Before they get to the drop point, the Zimbabwe um, gangster, the horse, was talking on the phone with somebody, and you find out it was his dad. His dad is the big wig. I don't know
Hmm.
if he's already overseas or not, but he's getting his orders from him. And they kind of corner Gray, Colin, and the guy at Paris's location, and it's kind of like Paris is like, I did not open the bag. I don't care about the bag. You don't even got to pay me. Just take it and go. And then they started asking questions like, well, how did the police get here? Did you guys call the police on it? Like, who set this all up? And they kind of threw the shade at Colin. They threw shade at him, but then ultimately, the guy that called the police couldn't keep his mouth shut. And at that moment, the horse kind of like turned and looked at him. And by that time, his brother was already whacking him in the back of his head. And the way they shot that, it was just dark. And there was blood splattered everywhere to the point that the blood got on the horse's suit. I didn't know whether or not he was gonna kill his own brother. Like
Hmm.
I think that's the thing that I love about this so far is that there's this uncertainty of how anybody can get it, but more than anything, what these people are capable of. I really just don't know. But Parrish in that moment was kind of like taken back a little bit, but then he composed himself really quickly and thought on his feet. The guy was like, "Here you go, here's your money." He was like, "I don't want the money." And then he was like, "Nothing in this comes for free." Because initially they were about to burn Colin, and he was like, "No, no, no, I'll take care of this." He took the full portion of the money, left the body sitting there with them, and it's just interesting how that all happened because the whole point was I'm gonna go and get this one job done, and that's it. And I kept saying, we kept talking about it, like you're not just gonna be done. Like this isn't just a one and done. Like they're gonna use you, and now you've got blood on your hands. I thought they were gonna make him prove his loyalty by killing the dude. That actually would have been more interesting, but now it's kind of like he still has to figure out how to get rid of the body in his own garage. So he still has blood on his hands. What was your take on the ending of this episode?
So I'm really excited for more. Like the ending came around and I felt a little underwhelming. I don't know why, but I just wasn't, I guess, clicking with it. But I'm really hoping the next episodes really just go crazy into just more craziness. I really don't know. I did enjoy the episode. I know that it's, the potential is there. I just feel like, it can be a little crazier. So it's really
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a really good cast. I think they just finished with their premiere. I'm all the way interested in seeing where things are gonna go. Um, I don't really know what he's supposed to do now because he was already in debt. Yes, he's got money, but it's blood money. So it's like, do you really use blood money? Realistically, you shouldn't, because it goes and traces back somewhere else. And on top of that, like he's estranged in his relationship with his daughter and his wife. And I don't know that things are going to go the way he expects. So we'll see where things go from this point. But I think this is a really good start to a first episode as far as a pilot. Um, it could have gone crazier, but I think that a slow burn is really good from something like this because even certain moments where he was emotionally compromised, they started doing like really interesting time lapse, and this feels a lot more artsy and thriller. It reminded me of the recent movie with God, I was on Netflix. Was it Assassin? Is that the name of it? On with my guy from the X-Men, Fassbender.
It's like Killer.
Yeah, it reminds me of that. That's the kind of vibe that I kind of get from this. Which Killer, it didn't apex until the end of it, but it built up so much to get us there that I was anticipating it was a good payoff. So that's what I'm kind of hoping from this cast and from this group. So as far as the first episode, I think I'm all the way down for it. My rating for the first episode would be a B plus. I'm definitely excited to see where it's going to go. But yeah, Bizzy closing thoughts and final rating.
I'm gonna give it a B. It didn't wow me, but it didn't mean it wasn't a good episode. So I'm gonna give it a B.
Yeah. And we're done with the first episode. Again, guys, you can go and check out our non-spoiler review. We will have gone through a couple more episodes to give you more of a perspective, but from a week-to-week standpoint, just gonna go ahead and give you guys what we think, and we'll be back for episode 2. Bizzy, where can everybody find your content, man?
You find me at Bizzy Braun on YouTube and Bizzy Reactions on Instagram. Looking forward to doing more reviews over here and then reactions over there. Why you do that? Why are you laughing? Why are you
Thank
laughing?
you so much, Bizzy.
Don't do
We're
that.
gonna go. All right, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe to the bell button, go to the description bar below, and check out Bizzy Braun's reactions. We got a lot of reactions that stuff that I've not reacted to in years and stuff you are excited about checking out. We're gonna go to bed and get some rest. Peace, people.
Falling out the top of I can see the skyline, 50-mile radius on my timeline. Ain't nothing.